All right, I did a short because I wanted to get the message out there and those reviewed most. Now I'm going to go in depth on why I've got this position. So first off, ultramethylene blue, great stuff. I like it. It's right there. It's fun for me to do that. We'll see what that does to the YouTube algorithm. Secondly, Pink Pony Club is an evil song that you shouldn't let your kids listen to, and a lot of mothers are doing this because we have this habit where we don't listen to the lyrics, we listen to the chorus, and the problem is the lyrics get in there and they're pretty clear. It's just you forget about them and then you think about them later, and then it's running through your head like a mantra. Um, Basically, when you have the ability to think something and do something, when you have the ability to manifest and you don't realize that, then you'll incidentally manifest. Now, I'm not talking cult stuff. I'm Christian. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about human beings being made in the image of God have the ability to create and do things. So when you have a earworm in your head, that's actually influencing how you think, and it's influencing how you act, and it's influencing decisions. Excuse me. Had a little sneeze there. I think I'm allergic to my own shampoo. It's influencing decisions that you make through the day. So, even if you don't directly perceive the lyrics of a song right away, they're in there. They're going in there. And something that reminds you will put that little earworm in there, and now that earworm is acting like a lens to your conscious. And it's filtering what you see. Now, like a lens, like a lens, sunglasses. Ow, I nearly poked myself in the eye. I can still see through these. You may not be able to see my eyes, but I can see through, but it's a little darker. See, it doesn't change everything, but it influences it. And that's what these earworms do. Now, this trend we've seen isn't new. What happens is the propagandists and Hollywood and Washington, D.C. are hand in glove. That's why the politics in this country has been so crazy for so long, because it's been synthetically pushed by special interest groups with very deep pockets that are stealing from the taxpayer through NGOs, etc. We found this out with Doge and all the benefits that were going overseas through these pork barrel funds to provide resources so rainbow communities could get off the ground in Uganda. That's all propaganda. And we were funding it through USAID. It wasn't aid. It was, we're funding your cultural subversion. And it was a subversion even on our culture. But the way these things work politically is media, film, music, video games, even if you look at The Last of Us, become warriors on the battlefield of the zeitgeist, of popular opinion, of culture. And because we all think in a certain way, and our thoughts, what we're thinking is a lens to our actions, you can influence that across culture, and you can actually influence the ebbs and flow of cultural swing. I think it was Asimov or Arthur C. Clarke. One of them wrote a novel about a computer that predicted the future. I think it was Asimov. I'd have to double check. I mix them up. Clarke was a pedo. I learned that, and I couldn't read his books anymore. Asimov wasn't that way, but he was a little bit pedantic. He was just kind of slow, and he'd spend too much time on a concept. And I tried to read one of his later works about a star, and it about put me to sleep. But he was the guy who wrote I, Robot. Anyway, the point was, this computer using AI could stimulate and influence massive movements of people across galaxies and planets and universes, and that's very ambitious. But the reality is, even without AI, you can influence people or a crowd like a wave, like water, because of what I spoke about at the very beginning with the lenses and whatnot. So what they do is they use these pop stars like Pied Pipers. In fact, that might be what that Pied Piper story is about to a certain degree, because what we're talking about here is a fundamental reality of human psychology, and that's groupthink. Okay, you've heard the term groupthink? So what's going on with media and politics is methodology that utilizes groupthink. Plans that use manipulation. These things are being used to influence people subconsciously and lead them into thoughts and activities they wouldn't have got to on their own, and that they're susceptible to. The majority of people in the United States have an IQ under 100. It's probably a lot closer to 90 than we'd like to admit. So the way they do a mean, which is add all the numbers together and divide them by the sum of the numbers. So if you had 20 and there was a spread of numbers from 3 to 5, you'd have 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 4 plus 3 plus 4 plus, all the way up to 20. Add all that together, divide it by 20, and then the number you get at the end is what the average of all those numbers are. Now, a median is a number that's just right in the middle of all the numbers. So, on average, Americans, if you add up all the IQ and divide it out, we're like under 100. It's kind of sad. The average person is right around 110, 120. The average American's right around 100 or less. And it differs throughout the world. But the point is, most people are stupid. It's not a judgment. I'm not criticizing. I'm not talking down to anybody. Not everybody can be smart. Not everybody can be dumb. Not everybody can be smack dab in the middle, but that's where most people are. Now, the powers that be understand this, and they co-opt natural stupidity to force their agenda. So what's going on with Pink Pony Girl? Well, little girls love ponies. Little boys love, guns and soldiers. And the little girls, it's pink. They like these colors. There's a subconscious, inherent, axiomatic reality to boys and girls. Certain things are more or less preferred. So when a song's refrain, its chorus is Pink Pony Girl, and there's a 3 or 4-year-old girl that hears this song come on the radio, oh, this is my Pink Pony song. That's all she's thinking. She's not thinking anything deeper than that, okay? So what's really insidious about this song is it is aiming at the next generation by making a bit of nostalgia about something grotesque. So what's Pink Pony Girl about? It's about a teenage girl leaving Tennessee to go to Santa Monica and become famous. But she ends up dancing at the Pink Pony Club. And then her mother, the chorus, oh, what have you done? You're a pink pony girl. It's about a mother in Tennessee who's sad that her daughter is now a stripper. And the song is either two things. Either A, the mother doesn't understand that she's just dancing in LA and she's not actually a stripper. And so she's freaking out and the daughter's mocking her for not being culturally aware of relevant trends. That's one interpretation. The other interpretation is that the girl's openly dancing at a strip club in West Hollywood and mocking her mother for being sorrowful that this is what has happened to her little girl. Go read the lyrics. That's what it's about. She's got visions of going to Santa Monica where boys and girls can be queens, and she's just having fun dancing in her heels at the Pink Pony Club in West Hollywood. These are the lyrics of the song. Some people have compared it to a white girl's WAP. So I'm not the only one who's getting this impression. Well, a little girl who's 3 or 4 dancing at a wedding party is not going to understand that. So here's what happened. I started doing DJ work, and as I go to these wedding parties, these mothers have these little 4-year-old girls. Usually it's the bridesmaid's daughter. That's what's been the last couple times. And the little girls want to hear Pink Pony Club because they're thinking ponies. They're thinking My Little Ponies. They're thinking little dolls, little rainbow tail and all that stuff. Remember in the 90s? That's what is in their little female brain. But the song is about becoming a sex object. So little kids are listening to this, even though that's what the song's about. Now, I don't think the song was intended by Chappelle Roan, who looks like a man in drag in some of her pictures. Google it. She's got all this makeup on. She looks like a man trying to hide the square jawbones and stuff. But you look at the videos, she's like a midget. So I don't know what is she trying to look like a man, trying to look like a woman? You've lost the plot, sweetheart. But I don't think she deliberately, when she put that song together, meant that to be aimed at children. I think the music studios that have a political underpinning, I think they know exactly what they're doing. And they know she doesn't know what she's doing. Because in her mind, if she's being legitimate, she is just thinking about having fun as a young girl in her 20s, being an object of desire for men. And there's a thing, one of the reasons men and women differ, men are loaded with their cultural value at the end of their lives as they accrue wealth, assets, and experience. Women are loaded with their cultural value at the beginning of their lives when they're hot and sexy, okay? This is one of the things that makes people change. A lot of older women are more shrill and meaner. Not all of them. Well, the reason is some of these ladies only learn to understand adult reality through their position as an objectified sexual object, as a attractive lady. They're getting favors and jobs not because they're skilled or deserve it, but because they look good and the people in power are like, look at that, all right. And they think that, oh, I'm just smarter and I've got something other people don't. Well, no, you're good looking and you're using your female charms, your human capital early. And if you don't marry a man, when you become an old lady, nobody's going to want anything to do with you and you're going to die alone with your cats, which is very sad. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen to boys in a different way either. I'm just saying that's part of what's going on here. So with Pink Pony Girl, they're using childhood archetypes to hoodwink a subsequent generation into nostalgia about a song that's objectifying women. And you really get to understand this if you've been out to LA. Now, I lived in LA from 2016 to 2020 in 2 separate RVs. The first one fell apart and I had to sell it and get another one. And I know where West Hollywood and Santa Monica are. Santa Monica's right on the coast. West Hollywood is east from Santa Monica a couple miles. It's on the western side of Hollywood. Hollywood is basically Skid Row now. It has been for years. When I was there in 2016 to 2020, it was disgusting. I didn't even want to park my RV around there because it wasn't just hobos. It was the heroin hobos, who sit there and they're playing a video game in a tent while they're high on opium of some caliber. And I don't want to park near those guys because, I'm living in an RV, but I'm working. I'm writing SEO. I don't want to have my stuff stolen. So how crazy is that there's a hierarchy in the communities of people that don't have traditional housing? Anyway, Santa Monica, Brad Pitt's out there. I used to park out there near this park where there's tennis. There's the free tennis or something. They wouldn't give me trouble parking my RV there. It was kind of safe. West Hollywood, that's where all the AIDS is. I say that tongue-in-cheek, but like the gay community of LA is in West Hollywood. That's where you're going to find all the lady boys, men pretending to be women. A lot of people don't know that if you haven't been out there. I didn't know that till I got out there. I didn't know anything about West Hollywood. Most people singing along to Pink Pony Girl don't understand that's part of what's going on there. But the thing about Hollywood in general is it's a siren song to vampirically leech off the youth. So the whole economy of LA runs on, or did, and this is dying now, thank God. But this song is why it happened as it did and reinforces it. The whole economy runs on lying to young people in a Pinocchio Pleasure Island motif. Basically, Hollywood's Chadwick and the Midwest is Pinocchio. And Chadwick's convincing Pinocchio to go to this Pleasure Island where they all become a bunch of porno jackasses. That's what's going on out there. So let me make it more clear. So Hollywood sells this dream that you can come out to the coast with your talent and your ability. And if you just work hard and you're honest, you're going to have some success. You're going to have the American dream. You can be in front of everybody. You can be a star. It's not what's really going on. What's really going on is they're appealing primarily to the prejudices of young females because they're easier to trick in this way, and guys aren't. I went out there for comedy. I did all right in comedy. If it wasn't for COVID, I might still be out there, so that could be a blessing in disguise. But because women are front-loaded with their cultural value in the form of beauty right away, a lot of what's going on out there is aimed at women. And LA's like 10, 15 million people, probably 25 when you include the illegals. And probably 1 million of those are kids in the age of 18 to 30 who came out from the Midwest thinking they're going to parlay their ability to act and perform or sing or dance and become a star. And that's just not how it works. How it works is they get out there and they realize there's auditions. And at the auditions, everybody looks exactly like they do. And the people who are casting for the project are looking not only for the one who fits the role, but for the one who is morally malleable, morally flexible enough that they can be controlled. So a lot of times what will happen is you'll have maybe 2 or 3 that it's been narrowed down to, and the producer wants to know which one's going to bang him. Harvey Weinstein, the whole Me Too thing. The casting couch, they call it. So what happens is you look the part, you can do the acting, but will you give that nasty old fat producer sexual favors? Nope, you're out. Here comes the one that will. So you go through this situation for like 4 or 5 years, and it's 4 or 5 times as expensive to live in LA as anywhere else. We're talking an apartment with a bathroom that's part of your kitchen for like $4,000 a month, and you're the apartment manager. That's what it's like to live behind the Lowe's Theater on Hollywood. I think my buddy's at $2,500 now, but that's basically his apartment. We did sketches there. He's a nice enough fella. It's a small apartment complex with a pool. He's like the apartment facilities manager, and he's still paying $2,500 a month doing DoorDash. It's pretty rough. That's pretty rough. Do that for 4 or 5 years while you're auditioning and failing at every role because you're not giving the fat, lisping, Bruce Valanche looking dude sexual favors. That's going to mess with you. So what happens? Well, Van Nuys, so you have Hollywood, West Hollywood, Santa Monica, some mountains here, and then over the mountains, Van Nuys in the valley. That's the world's porn capital, is Van Nuys. So what happens is a million starlets come out from Kansas and Nebraska and Wyoming and South Dakota, North Dakota and Iowa and Minnesota and Illinois and Wisconsin. And they all come out to LA, and they're not bad looking and they're not without talent. But the people that can give them jobs know that they have the perk of getting sexual favors from these hot girls. That's what they're thinking. They don't care about where you came from. So the ones that give them the favors get the roles. And the ones that don't give them the favors end up spinning around the toilet until they either leave or they go to Van Nuys. And then they become a porn star. Or, like in Pink Pony Girl, they become a stripper. Which is actually kind of a step up from being a porn star, if you think about it. Because you don't have to be banged by a bunch of gay dudes who are giving you venereal diseases for a living. Which is what happens in porno. So, Pink Pony Club is providing a false expectation to a non-reality, aiming that false expectation at the stupidity of young people. And that is another chain, another piece of propaganda, another lens reinforcing a lie that causes people in the flower of their youth to go where the vampires are and have their soul sucked out of them sexually. That's what's going on in LA. That's why all of this stuff's bad. Everybody's compromised. Look at Pedro Pascal. He did some dude in a closet. You know it. Look at the guy. He's got all these roles. He's competent. He's not great. This isn't organic. Very few people become an A-list performer organically. Now, it does happen. I don't know if I could put a percentage on it. I'd say 1 to 10% in that range. The rest of them that get up there do it by morally questionable means. And that's why they're so depressed, and that's why they're on drugs, and that's why their marriages don't last, and that's why they're so messed up. Because they've been traumatized, usually in the worst way, by being abused in that sort of way. And it's hard to come to grips to that because they can still remember when they were a young kid doing community theater, just in the dress and singing the song, and everybody in the schoolhouse was clapping, and they were good at something. Maybe they weren't good at math. Maybe they weren't good at writing. Maybe they had trouble learning the music. Maybe they weren't good at sewing, but you know what they were good at? They were good at singing and being in front of people. I have a talent. Oh, I can use it. And they go out there and they realize the only way they can use what they're actually good at is to become used by someone else, is to become an object. Now, the smart ones who go out to LA don't try and perform. They work in crew, they work as film crews, set design, background tasks, creating the content, and using actors and actresses like tools. And there are those those directors and producers that actually swear by the exploitation of young people, because it produces an easily accessible vulnerability that's related to the PTSD that they're experiencing in their lives from having to deal with a crooked Harvey Weinstein wing, basically. So there is something where actors and actresses are encouraged by acting coaches to be vulnerable, and one of the ways they do that is exercises that simulate perversity. Part of that's grooming, is what it is. I got a bachelor's degree in theater, and they talked so much about this vulnerability. And there's one play in Mount Vernon, Iowa, called Equus, where a young man becomes sexually attracted to a horse. I wasn't the young man, thankfully. I was one of the horses in the stable, not the one he rides on. That was a taller, bigger dude, thankfully. I got a bit part in that play. I got to learn things I didn't want to learn, or But it was God's grace, because now I understand more than I should. So the theater people there, they're two college kids. They're both over 18, but they're not drinking age yet. This gives you an idea. This is pretty gross. The theater professionals in Equus, there's a young lady and a young man, and one of the climactic scenes is they get naked on stage and go to have sex, but the guy can't get it up because he's used to riding horses. That's Equus. It's a horrible play. It's stupid and ridiculous. I first heard about it in high school. That's disgusting and wicked. I should never have heard about that play in high school. Whoever put that play in the theater room has some moral accountability they need to think about, because that was wicked and wrong. You shouldn't put that play in front of teenagers like that. But in college, I knew the actor and actress who were involved in that play, and they had to get naked on stage. They were being groomed. Okay, they didn't realize it. They were over the age of 18. It's technically legal. You see how insidious and terrible and nasty this is. And then people like that go out to LA. Well, I went out there. God saved me by helping me work in a coal mine and then go to Colorado first. And then I became a stand-up comedian. So I wasn't looking for those auditions. And I've already found a secondary means of income, search engine optimization writing, to mobilely provide me with income. So I wasn't desperate enough to do those things. But when I was in college in Casper, one of the professors told me, you need to go out to LA and only try to get income from acting. Otherwise, you'll never make it. That's a great way to end up in porn, Rich. You don't know what you're talking about. And that was the guy's name. I won't say his last name, but that's what he was saying, and he was completely wrong. If you go out there and you do that, you're going to end up in porn, because there ain't enough money, and you're not going to get the gigs, and you're not going to know what to do, and it's performative. So Pink Pony Club is using childhood passion to sneak in a poisoned lie in the deep youth nostalgia of the mind that flowers in adolescence and becomes a pipeline for young people to be pushed into porno. Okay, now it's not the only song that does this. It's just trending now, and I know it's going to be the one that is trending for the next year or two. It's a WAP. It's a I am beautiful no matter what they say. Same song, same thing. All these pop starlets, MK Ultra Monarch programmed false divas that are pole turtles prompted to their position by people pushing for porno. A lot of P words there. Didn't even mean to do that. All these songs are designed as a siren call. They're propagandistic marketing playing on the rebellion that is psychologically natural in young people, to suck them into a situation where they have no recourse because of their pride, but to do wicked things they wouldn't do otherwise. And then what happens? They tell their mom, oh, I'm working as a pink pony girl. Oh, you're a pink pony girl. I'm just having fun with my heels at the club. What's really happened? The character in the song went out to be a star, got sucked into porn, and she's putting a good spin on it. Now, Chappelle Roan is actually a starlet. 99.9999999% of the girls who listen to her music will never be that person. So for her, maybe there's an aspect of truth to it. But I find it impossible to believe she hasn't done some nasty, weird sex stuff, especially when you look at her and she's got them sucked in Satan cheeks, and she got the long curly hair, and she got makeup here and here and here, so she looks like a man trying to look like a woman. It's weird. What it is cultural trend being used to brainwash impressionable people that still don't know who they are or what's going on in the world and are developing their opinions. When I was younger, I used to think that the core artistic soul of something was subversion, because that's all I saw in the mainstream media. I didn't realize that people are working together to lie to the public to trick them into being farmable. These are porn piggies. I didn't realize that. I thought if you work hard and you're honest and you do a good job and you're professional, you're going to be in a position where you can climb the ladder. That's what I thought, like an idiot. I didn't think of all this corruption running things. Now we see it. Now we see with how they're literally farming homeless people by establishing NGOs to serve them that don't serve them but do require an increasing budget from the taxpayer and so underwrite the political careers of those who are in management of said NGOs. I didn't see that level of corruption. I didn't understand that. I thought what was artistically viable was some subversion on normal conventions, normal practices, tweaking it a little bit. And that was where the art was. That's what I was meant to think because I was impressionable. I didn't know any better. So a lot of my early writings are trying to be sneaky about subversion. I'm not trying to be gross. I just thought that's what art was. I thought it was dark. I was in a play called Marat Sade, which is about a bunch of pervert communists. And one of the actresses said, it's so beautiful. Meanwhile, it takes place in an insane asylum where a bunch of people who have perverse issues are given monologues about French communism and how difficult it is to live among people who love Jesus. It's a stupid play. It's a very stupid play. But this young little Unitarian girl was like, it's so beautiful. No, it was ugly and grotesque. She was being taught to think that beauty was ugly and grotesque. This is a Marxist ideological subversion. It's cultural Marxism. It's cultural subversion. See, all these things work together because they're rotting society in a way that provides those responsible for this propaganda resources. Socialism is just rebranded feudalism. Now the peasants, the bureaucrats, the people who are at the DMV, now they're the lords and ladies and kings and queens rather than the lords and ladies and kings and queens. That's all it is. The people who didn't have means before are now worse off because now the government has a right through petty bureaucracy to steal everything and homogenize it and give everybody the mean, the average, which I spoke about earlier. So what that ends up doing is it just makes everybody poor, and the people who are bureaucrats who weren't able to manage that kind of money in the first place, well, they mismanage it to oblivion. That's just what happens. So what we're seeing right now with songs like Pink Pony Club is an attempt to nostalgically support the idea of anti-family sex object life by planting this idea in the minds of young women. Now, I don't think Chappelle Roan meant to do that. I know the production studio that's behind her song did. I don't think she was targeting young gals at a bridal party in their little flower girl dress with their auntie who's a bridesmaid that never got married and listens to this song because it makes her feel like less of a failure in life because she does work at one of those strip clubs and not even the one in LA. It's some Iowa strip club. You know, the little girl who hears her auntie listening to that song and just hears Pink Ponies isn't thinking about that. But when she becomes a teenager, she remembers it. Okay? And it's not just these songs. I mean, it's not just starlets. Billy Joel does this. I love Billy Joel. I love the song Big Shot. But think about this lyrics. I don't care what you say anymore because it's my life. Go ahead with your own life and leave me alone. Billy Joel, were you conscious as a sperm fertilizing an ova? Was that you consciously flying through that fallopian tube? No. That was a result of your dad and mom doing things. Your dad and mom brought you into the world. And their dad and mom brought them into the world. And they have sisters and cousins. And you may or may not have brothers or sisters. I don't know. You were playing piano in New York and talking about it. But the family life you're a part of is not your life. You are a steward over a life you've been given that is not yours to choose. It is not yours to end. People think they can commit suicide. Maybe. There's one guy who was going to hang himself, drank some poison, and brought a pistol with him so he wouldn't feel the pain when the rope snapped his neck as he jumped off the bridge. The apocryphal story goes, he shot the bullet, killed the rope, hit the water, puked the poison, and lived to die of hypothermia in the hospital. Oh, he died, but not by his hand. So the question is, do we really have the control we think we do? No, we don't. We don't control the country we're born in. We don't control the state, the city, the economic reality we're born into. We don't control our mother, our father, our sisters, our brothers, our cousins, our aunts, our uncles, our grandparents. We don't control any of that. We don't control very much the society we're around as children. As you get older, you can control the friends you have. When you're a kid, you're in Sunday school, you're in school, you're friends with the children of your parents' friends, basically, until you reach an age where you can choose your own. And even then, there's a social hierarchy that determines who you can be friends with. When I was in high school, I couldn't be friends with the cool kids. I wasn't a cool kid. I had to hang out with the other kids who couldn't be friends with the cool kids, and we went around throwing firecrackers at crackheads, you know? That's That's a joke, but you see what I'm saying. Life is very similar. You'd like to be friends with the rich guy in town, but you can't be. I don't care anymore what you say, 'cause it's my life. No, it's not. It's never been your life. It'll never be your life. The life you and I have is life we've been given that we didn't choose, that we are now in, making decisions based on the best case scenario. So pop music generally is more dangerous than the death metal and the techno stuff, even though I'm sure there's bad stuff there. It's putting into our minds these ideas that because of the music around them are a Trojan horse. The music around them hides the emotional rot of the concept, and it becomes planted in our mind in such a way that it becomes a lens through which our thinking passes. We trick ourselves. Pink Pony Girl's an evil song. And why am I doing this video? Well, I had to do it at almost every single wedding I've DJ'd since I started. And now, whenever I go out to the local watering hole to get a whiskey and just, not be alone in a house for a while, everybody's singing this song on karaoke. And last night it was actually very funny but disturbing and sad. It was one of those dark humor, gallows humor things. So the night before that, a couple of cute gals got up and sing Pink Pony Girl. They don't know that they're advocating for women being in a pipeline to become a sex object. They don't know that they're singing White Girl WAP. Even these adult women are just thinking of pink ponies, and I'm a pink pony. And that's when they're reading the words off the screen. That's how susceptible we are. Whatever. And then the night before, somebody sang it, and she was a sweetheart, and whatever. Well, last night, a group of people got up there, and one of them was a tranny. And so there's like 4 gals, and then this 6'5" fat, ugly duckling, and they're all like, Pink Pony Girl, and he's like, Pink Pony Girl. And I'm sitting here in the audience like, one of these things is not like the other. One of these things is not like the other. And it's ironic, though, because he's embodying the spirit of that song's wickedness. He's up there singing Pink Pony Girl. Now the propaganda's so ridiculous that it's even going after young men and sucking them into this pipeline. A lot of it has to do with the subversion of the office and destiny of women and men. We're not interchangeable. Men and women are good at different things. Put it this way, a man might be analytical, a woman might be emotional, and that's for the main. There are always statistical outliers where there's a more emotional man than a woman who's more analytical, but each of those is 1 out of 100, and the other 98 are squarely separate. And the people on the left try and use the minimal situation to describe the maximal reality. That's a form of lying. So, unfortunately, now we have this epidemic of men pretending to be women and women pretending to be men because we're confused, because we've been lied to. And when lies are big enough and loud enough, it doesn't matter if people believe them. It matters if people are confused and can't discern the truth. And that's what's going on now. From songs like Pink Pony Girl that teach young girls their childish wonder at things like ponies is really hidden sex object desire, to the idea that men can be women and women can be men. All our culture is bombarding this and previous and future generations with total lies that completely confuse them to the point where they mock their mother for being sad that her little girl has been tricked by the lie and now thinks that she's being fulfilled as a sex object in LA, where vampires want her to shake it until she's too ugly to shake it and take the money she produces. Oh, she gets a cut of it. She ain't running the club. That's what's going on in Hollywood. That's why I can't stand that song. Because that song is a carrot in front of a horse, and it's leading him off a cliff. And everybody just thinks it's cute. And it's not. Pink Pony Club. Buffalo Bill singing at karaoke with a bunch of college girls. Pink Pony Club. It's disgusting. And it's sad. And it's taken off, and there ain't much I can do about it. So I made this video.